I was gonna change it up and be weird. This is post pizza dinner, Matt. That's stupid because it makes it sound like I ate my cat.
It does.
Yeah. God, she is so pretty though. Mm-hmm. This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter.
This is Tiny at Obsessive Tiny on Letterboxd.
And this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show, each episode. You can find more of our work at ObsessiveViewer.com, and you can like us on Facebook and join the Facebook group at Facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer. You can also support us on Patreon at Patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer at the minimum rate of $1 per month for an exclusive RSS feed with content recorded specifically for Patreon supporters. Tiny and I just recorded a very off-the-cuff Patreon exclusive thing that ran the gamut of talking about birthdays, which Tiny is on the cusp of his. Mm-hmm. And we also talked about blockers and... What did I talk about? Oh, IMDb Free Dive.
Yes.
Yeah, so anyway, check that out at Patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer. Once again, I'm your host, Matt Hurt, and with me today is co-host Tiny.
Hello.
Hi, Tiny.
Hey.
How you feeling? I was gonna try to do a pun of some kind on your birthday and everything, but yeah.
Oh, I feel so old. Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm gonna be 32. Mm-hmm. Just being a dramatic millennial.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, old man.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's interesting though. So you don't feel like you're, I don't know, biological clock ticking or anything?
Age is just a number, bruh.
Nice.
No, I've never been obsessed about, first of all, celebrating my birthday.
Right.
Secondly, like, what it means philosophically or, like, whatever. Like, it's literally the calendar turns another day. Like, I just...
Right.
It's the same way I feel about, like, New Year's and stuff.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I think Fecus has kind of a similar kind of philosophy, which if you're listening to this, Fecus, can you believe that it's already Tiny's birthday?
God. What if we were just here?
I know. He's never going to be on the podcast again. Yeah, so anyway, that's awesome. Well, congratulations on living for another year.
Thank you.
And congrats on 32.
Thank you.
I don't have a gift for you. I feel bad.
Don't give me a gift.
Yeah.
Like I said, not big on celebrating it.
Oh, okay, yeah. I did offer you pizza.
You did. Yes.
The food, not my cat. Yeah.
Yeah, I told my parents, I was like, don't get me anything for my birthday.
Oh, really?
I'm a grown man. Like,
Interesting.
Don't. So they got me a card.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, my wife didn't give me anything either. I was like, I don't want anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm just not. It's like, I'm over it, I guess.
Wow. Is this like a new thing? Because, I mean, I got you Blade Runner 2049 last year.
Yes, and I adored it, and I watched it.
Oh,
and
nice.
it would have made my top 10 if I'd watched the damn thing before we recorded. But, but yeah, I don't know. It's not that I'm like bitter, like, oh, birthdays are dumb. I'm not saying that. It's just like, I don't.
It's gone are the days where you can be excited about your birthday and like where like you open your mail and it's like, oh, I got a card with $5.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm over that. So
I totally get that. My birthday's June 26th though, so if anyone wants to give me a gift, that's fine.
Cool.
No, I'm kind of the same way though, honestly. It's kind of like I've always felt uncomfortable like receiving gifts.
Okay.
Just in a weird way. I just feel like it makes me feel like kind of, I don't know, uncomfortable.
Okay. Yeah.
But again, guys, June 26th, you know, anything.
Let's say you're not really living up to that.
I know. Anyway, so this is, gonna be a loopy episode, I think. Mm-hmm. I just gorged myself with pizza, the food. And Tiny is, Tiny's patience is growing thin around me.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, this is our first full episode since the year in review episode.
It is.
Which, if you guys are listening and we just recently picked you up from the year in review episode, welcome. Our intros are usually a lot cleaner than what we've just done, but again, I'm all doped up on pizza. So yeah, but we do have, this episode is going to be filled with a lot of stuff. We actually have a lot of stuff to go through. We have some news items to go through, some housekeeping, some big kind of exciting news on the podcast as well. And then eventually we're going to get to a review of The Upside, starring Bryan Cranston and Kevin Hart. But first, I do have some housekeeping to go through. First of all, we have a promo from a friend of ours podcast. Actually, Tony had given me the promo for a podcast that he is helping to produce. It's very exciting. I'm excited about it. I'll go ahead and play the promo here now. The podcast is called You're Going to Love This or Not. And the website for that is excuse me. The website is YGLTON.com. And here's the promo for You're Going to Love This or Not.
Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Josh.
And this is You're Gonna Love This
or Not.
You know, one of my great pleasures in life is to bring people down into my basement and subject them to a terrible, terrible movie that I hope they might like.
One of my great joys in life is to come to the subterranean fun pit, watch a movie that Matt is convinced I'm going to love, and then tell him about how much I hate it.
So we've got a long list of movies to go through, and every month we're going to come on and have Josh watch a movie, talk about it a little bit, and see where it falls in the great pantheon of terrible movies.
And I'm pretty sure by the end of this, I'm going to develop some form of Stockholm Syndrome. Well, anyways, this is our podcast. Have fun listening to us. And as always, Matt, you're a son of a bitch.
I love you, Josh.
Okay, yes. So that is a new podcast that's coming out soon. Very excited about it. You can check that out at YGLTON.com. And yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes and everything. Can't wait to check out that podcast. And yeah. So, Tiny, we have a few news items to go. This week, some pretty sizable things have happened for all of us.
Totally, yeah, definitely.
So Mike, our own Michael White, which I was really hoping that he would be able to be on this episode, but that's fine.
Yeah.
He got his first article published on bloodydisgusting.com.
That's so cool.
So awesome. His I'll put a link to the show in the show notes, of course. But he had an editorial on Bloody Disgusting called As Horror Franchise Remakes Evolve, Let's Talk About How to Classify Them. Again, that's at bloodydisgusting.com. I, for one, am super proud of him.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm so excited about the prospect of him writing more.
Mm-hmm.
And the article is amazing. Like,
it's an article I would stop and read if I didn't know who Mike was. Like,
absolutely.
I didn't just read it because Mike wrote it. Like, it's well written and a great thought.
Yeah, very thorough and everything. And like, this is just, Mike's great. I love Mike. He, when we recorded our bonus episode, reviewing Escape Room that just went up, he, like, after we were done recording, he was like, I was kind of, so I think I might have some, I might be posting some stuff on bloodydisgusting.com. And I was like, that's amazing. And he's like, I was kind of nervous to tell you about it. I'm like, why? Like, I'm so excited for you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And part of it is that he was, he was nervous because the article that he posted, that was posted just the other day, is actually a concept that we were working on for a podcast episode.
Yeah.
We actually recorded like half of it, which I'm fine with us not doing.
Okay.
Just because it's been so long and it works a lot better, I think, in written form.
Yeah.
And especially written by Mike, a master of the English language.
Right. Literally. He has his masters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the other So yeah, check that out at bloodydisgusting.com. I'm hoping that means that Mike is going to get to write more stuff for Bloody Disgusting. Super proud of him and excited for his voice to get out further.
Definitely.
And of course, here we are going to be giving them the good old obsessive viewer bump.
Yep.
So that little website, bloodydisgusting.com, will be able to get some traffic from our podcast. I'm just joking. There's like a fraction of people listen to this versus Bloody Disgusting.
There are dozens of us.
Yes.
Dozens.
But it was really cool because like I was so excited for Mike as well because like it garnered some good conversation in the comments. And
there's lots of comments going on.
Yeah, and like that's one thing I was like kind of nervous about for like on his behalf, like just as an anxious person, just like, oh, comments, don't read the comments, and then my curiosity got the better of me, and I was like, oh, they're actually really good.
Yeah.
So check that out at bloodydisgusting.com. Also, final thing on that is that I was so I was just flabbergasted at the fact that like if you went to bloodydisgusting.com today, like his article is featured right there. It's right there on the homepage.
Man, that's crazy.
It's so awesome. So incredibly happy for Mike.
Yep.
So the news pieces don't stop there, I guess. I don't know. I got an email.
Yeah, you got your own big news, buddy.
Yeah, it's one of those. There's a collective of film critics in Indiana. It's IndianaFilmJournalists.com. It's the Indiana Film Journalists Association. I'm now officially a member.
It's very cool.
Yeah, I was super excited, and it kind of peeked behind the curtain. I'd applied last year, and I was politely declined, and they gave like reasons like, well, like if you do more coverage like of local stuff and post more like reviews and everything, then
it was like really constructive. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And so basically, I kind of took that to heart, I guess, and I was working like all year toward that. Like I wrote tons of reviews on Letterboxd and made a huge effort for Heartland. So kind of a peek behind the curtain. That's why I've been so like kind of active and not like complacent as I have been in years past. And so I went ahead and just resubmitted an application, updated some information on the application itself, and very pleasantly surprised, or very, very pleased to announce and grateful that I was selected to be added. I think I'm the either 19th or 20th member of the Indiana Film Journalists Association. So I'm super excited about it. It's just, it's going to be cool. They seem like a really great group of people. And, I'm hoping that kind of opens some more doors for me to kind of hone my film criticism. Like I am starting, if you're listening to this at around the time of release, you'll notice that the website I've been posting more of like the written reviews, on the website, and that's going to be a more frequent thing. Basically what I'm doing is I'm taking my Letterboxd reviews, punching them up, and posting them on the website. So eventually it's going to be a point where the website's going to be the home of all of my written reviews, and my Letterboxd reviews will be either cross-posted from Obsessive Viewer or be snippets from the Obsessive Viewer reviews with links to the reviews.
Gotcha.
So super excited about that. Very, very happy to be included in the Indiana Film Journalists Association until they kick me out.
Nice.
And then Tiny, you used A-List for the first time.
I did?
Yeah.
Sure
How
did.
was that experience?
Fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is it because you saw a movie with me?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I genuinely enjoy the AMC app. Like, it's very, I think, I told you, or you told me that, Fecus said it's basically idiot proof.
Yeah.
It is. And it's like, you can look up a movie and buy the ticket within like, if you know where you're going, you can do it in like 30 seconds.
Absolutely.
Seriously. Like, it's that easy. I was like, dang. And I can just like save it to my wallet on my phone and just pull it right up. It's just it's very convenient.
Nice. Yeah. One thing that I've mentioned before on the podcast, I think to Kirsten, is that one thing that I think is pretty cool is that, at least on Android phones, I'm sure iPhone is the same. When you buy a ticket, and it takes you to your ticket screen, if you click Add to Calendar, at least on my phone, it will open up Google Calendar, my default calendar, and it would add that to my calendar. So basically, I have a ticket for Replicas tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
I may not be seeing that tomorrow. I don't know. But if I click Add to Calendar, it brings it up. And the great thing about it is that the movie starts at 5:40. It has the end time of when the movie actually gets out.
That's cool.
So it doesn't it's not like it's taking it from IMDb and calculating the time frame. It's from AMC, this is the time that this screening ends.
Interesting.
So it takes into account
trailers and stuff.
Wow. So it's great because I mean, obviously, if you listen to the Year in Review episode, you know that I've seen a lot of movies in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm not particularly into a movie, well, I don't know if I'd say particularly into a movie, but if I feel my attention waning a little bit, or if I feel fidgety, I'll kind of turn my phone over so that I don't wake it up, but I have a lock screen. On my lock screen, I have kind of a dimmed clock. I can look and be okay, well, I remember that on my calendar it says that it gets out at 7:50 or 7 whatever, and I can be okay, well, it's 7 o'clock now. I have 40 minutes left until I can get the fuck out of this screening. So it's great.
That's cool.
Yeah. I was all excited because I was oh, do you want to see Replicas tomorrow? But I know you got plans. Also, it's your birthday.
Yeah, I have plans, so.
That's fine.
The app on the iPhone, it has the option to add it to your wallet.
Okay.
Which is the app where you keep your tickets and stuff like that. So,
nice.
But it doesn't have the calendar thing.
Interesting. Do you do you use a calendar on your phone?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Anyways.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so that's A-list. That's that's your weekly A-list promotion there.
Yeah.
That they're not paying us for at all. We just really love that product. But Tiny, we're here to talk about the upside. But before we do that, we do have I think really just a couple news items to go through. First one will be brief. Game of Thrones Season 8. The final season has a premiere date.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to premiere on April 14th, right in time for taxes. I don't know. On HBO. The last season is going to be 6 episodes long, and I think I don't want to show our cards too early, but I think we're going to have a fun little. We are in the planning stages of a pretty fun Game of Thrones. What's the word I'm looking for? Tribute for Game of Thrones to go out on. So I think we're going to be doing something fun for the podcast.
Yeah.
That will also be somewhat beneficial to the Patreon subscribers. So support us on Patreon.
Yeah.
But that's one piece of news. The next piece of news I have is the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer came out today.
It did.
Yes, and I'm going to go ahead and play a clip from the trailer here and now. Enjoy.
I think Nick Fury just hijacked our summer vacation.
Awesome! You got gifts, Parker, but you have a job to do. Are you going to step up or not? You're all alone. Your friends are in trouble. What are you going to do about it?
You don't want any part of this.
Okay, so I am so excited for this damn movie.
Me too.
I love the tone that it strikes because it is the antithesis of the Endgame tone.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily have the mystique, or the mystery.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Of like Captain Marvel's trailers and stuff. Like, this just seems like this is the friendly neighborhood, fun Spider-Man, and I can't wait.
Totes.
What was your reaction to the trailer? And, yeah.
Well, first of all, it's just like a really well-rounded trailer. Mm-hmm. Like, some trailers kind of suck. Yeah. Like, you mentioned Game of Thrones. Like, any teaser we've gotten for that so far is just, I haven't been very satisfied with them.
Sure.
Which, that's not a bad thing. It's just, not the best. But this was super fun, and like, they give you just the right amount of stuff. There's a cool reveal in it about a character that's going to be in it, played by a big actor.
Yeah.
That was just fun. I didn't know that he was going to be in this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I hadn't read up on this movie at all.
Yeah.
Just for intentionally, I hadn't looked up anything about it. So that was a complete reveal for me. I was like, oh, cool.
That's interesting.
So yeah, it was just a fun trailer overall. And then the movie just looks great. I really loved Homecoming, the kind of direction that they're taking with the Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I think the franchise had just gotten stagnant. Like, I don't think anybody really wanted the Andrew Garfield ones.
I was gonna say, which franchise?
Yeah. Well, it's all the same franchise. It's just different owners and actors, and Yeah. But like, I thought the Andrew Garfield ones were fine, and I liked them to an extent, but I didn't need them.
Yeah.
But this is like, after Homecoming came out, it's like, I want to see more of it now. Like,
Same
here. They definitely did their job, and so for that reason, it really has me excited.
Yeah.
So much more than I was even with like the second Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. I don't even remember what it was called.
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Was it Amazing Spider-Man? Yeah, so I don't even remember. Like, it's just, and everyone knows my opinion about the Tobey Maguire ones.
Right,
so
right.
I won't get into. They'll get me started.
Yeah.
So
you still haven't seen Spider-Verse yet.
I haven't. No.
Yeah.
I hope it's still in theaters for the next few weeks, because I might A-list that and try to see it.
Nice. If I have tickets, I'll go see it again. I'll see it again. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to go Thursday?
I'm working late on Thursday.
That's fine. That's fine. I guess I'll see Replicas tomorrow, as I plan. That's my third ticket for the week. Yeah. So I'm so excited for Far From Home. There's a moment, like the last moment of the trailer, where it got a very hearty chuckle out of me. It's where Flash is talking about how much he loves Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then he looks over at Peter and is like, "Sup, dickwad?" Yeah. And then just like, I don't know, just the way that Tom Holland like flips him off and smiles at him, or gives him a thumbs up. That's what he does. He gives him a thumbs up and smiles at him. I'm like, that is like, that right there encapsulates what I love so much about the tone of these movies. And I'm so excited about it. Yeah, I'm so pumped. That comes out July 5th, I think.
July 5th.
Yep, July 5th. Speaking of Tom Holland, also, I do have a third news item that I just remembered. This is exciting, tentatively. So, did you hear that, the Uncharted movie has a new director?
I did not hear about this, no.
Okay. So, Uncharted, very famous video game series from PlayStation, from Naughty Dog Studios. Very cinematic. Nathan Drake, kind of Indiana Jones-esque, National Treasure-esque kind of adventure story. It has been a property that it has been talked about as being adapted into film for years and years and years.
It's kind of begging for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's gone through several different iterations, or pre-production phases, I guess you would say. At one point, Mark Wahlberg was going to star as Nathan Drake.
Oh, yeah.
In a movie directed by, I forget who was attached to direct it. Yeah, it was someone that didn't really fit that well for my sensibilities. And I think most recently Sean Levi was supposed to direct it. Who he is, I think that he's I don't remember what else he's directed, but he's a producer on Stranger Things.
Oh, okay.
But Tom Holland has been attached to star in it, and it's going to be like a younger Nathan Drake story.
Interesting.
Yeah. But Sean Levy is not going to be directing it. Instead, and this, I'll just say it, Dan Trachtenberg from 10 Cloverfield Lane, Playtest episode of Black Mirror, he is now on board to direct Uncharted.
Nice.
Which I honestly can't think of a single filmmaker who would be a better fit than Dan Trachtenberg for this particular project.
Cool.
And it's so like kind of beautiful in a way, because Dan Trachtenberg, for those who don't know, his background is that he was the host of the Totally Rad show with Jeff Kanata and Alex Albright. They basically did video game reviews and pop culture reviews, stuff like that. So, there is a clip from that show from like a long time ago, that is so poetically beautiful. I'm going to go ahead and play a clip from it here, or play the actual clip here. So, here is the clip that I'm struggling to bring up now. This clip is from December 2007. This is from the Totally Rad show. They're talking about, I believe it's the first Uncharted video game.
What do you think, Dan? What do you think of Uncharted? Okay, so this was my most anticipated game of the year. You were talking about trying to get the rights to make it. I love Prince of Persia. I love, in terms of the games, I love that. And in terms of genre of movies, I wish I could make this movie. I think this is as good as many movies. I agree.
Yeah, that's Dan Trachtenberg in 2007 saying, I wish I could make this movie about Uncharted. And now that I think about it, I think they were reviewing probably Uncharted 3 or Uncharted 2. I'm not sure. But yeah, so it's just, I love that. That's so great. And like, from all of the development hell that the Uncharted movie the potential Uncharted movie has been going through, the whole time I'm thinking like, okay, this is never going to get made. This is never going to get made. Maybe that's for the best. This is never going to get made because video game movies suck anyway. But like, this is the first time where I'm like, I want this to get made so bad now. It's just, I'm so excited about it. So anyway, that's the news for the week. And so we are going to go ahead and review The Upside, which was Tiny's first A-list movie. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go ahead and have Tiny read a plot description while I hiccup into the microphone, courtesy of IMDb.
Yeah, so the synopsis says, a comedic look at the relationship between a wealthy man with quadriplegia and an unemployed man with a criminal record who's hired to help him.
Yes, and this movie stars Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston and Nicole Kidman in an incredibly thankless role. Tate Donovan also makes an appearance as well. Directed by Neil Berger, who he did something. Oh, he directed The Illusionist.
Huh.
I think one of the Divergent movies.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he directed Divergent.
Gotcha.
Also Limitless, The Lucky Ones. Yeah, so anyway, we'll go into our review. We'll separate it by spoiler and non-spoiler. Tiny, it's worth mentioning that this movie is based on a 2011 French film called The Untouchables, which I've heard really good things about.
Really?
Yeah, and I guess it's based on a true story on that end.
Oh, okay.
And like, it's funny because like, look up The Untouchables. Intouchables. I'd seen the cover art on Netflix and like around the streaming services. Oddly enough, now it's not available to stream anywhere. But I don't know what it is, but like something about, because I had no context of what it was. But like the cover art made me think like it's a football movie. Like I don't know why. But yeah, anyway, so it's based on that. This movie, The Upside, was wide released, I think, like January 11th, like last Friday, as of this recording. However, it did premiere in TIFF in 2017, and then did the festival circuit. Judging from IMDb, it did like a light festival circuit throughout 2017, 2018, and then now it's finally getting a wide release. It has the trappings of being a movie that was being positioned for an Oscar push, but kind of fell through the cracks, and now it's kind of being dumped in January.
Yeah.
Tiny.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into our non-spoiler review, what were your expectations for the movie? How did you feel going into it? Were you excited about it? How did you feel?
I was excited about it, and my main focus for this movie was going to be on Kevin Hart, who I've talked about and on the podcast. And I was mostly interested in him because this seems like a role I haven't seen him in yet. And I appreciate his stand-up, but I'm not real big on him as an actor. I don't care for him a lot. I don't hate him or anything. So I saw the trailer for this and I was like, all right, I think I might really like Kevin Hart in this movie. So that was my main focus, is to see how he performed in this, because he's such a big deal right now. And understandably so. I get it.
Have you been following the controversy at all?
No, other than what we've discussed on here.
Yeah.
Not really. So
and I kind of haven't either, and poor podcasting on our part, but yeah, to kind of refresh, he was offered the role of the host of the Oscars, and then homophobic tweets were resurfaced or uncovered, and he was unapologetic about it, or he was saying like he's grown, but he's not going to apologize for his past, whatever.
Yeah.
He kind of seemed kind of stubborn about it, and then he was either removed or backed out from hosting the Oscars. And then there was something about him going on Ellen, and like I don't know what it was. This is poor podcasting, but I don't know. I'm back and forth on it, because it's well documented that I personally think that, well, I don't know. It's tough. It's really, really tough.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's tough because like he does have a platform where if he apologizes for it, I guess he's apologizing now that he has a movie opening, but it's just like he has a platform to, explain like why it's bad to be homophobic and stuff.
Yeah. And
he chose not to use that platform for anything other than saying that he's not going to apologize for, his past.
Right.
Which I get where he's coming from, but also, yeah. Also, slight tangent, but John Lasseter, former bigwig over at Pixar, he was fired from Pixar. He quit because it was surfaced that like there were a lot of accusations of him being inappropriate toward female employees and sexually harassing them and stuff, which is a bummer because I love Pixar. I'm not shunning Pixar because of it or anything, but it's just a bummer that I talked about it with Fecus a year or so ago. But anyway, he was recently named, or he is now like in a powerful position within. Oh man, I can't remember the production company. Okay. He's now kind of over at Skydance Animation.
Okay.
Yeah, and this like recently came about. He and it's getting a lot of flack online. Just him being there. One headline that I see is Paramount Animation will reportedly not collaborate with Skydance because of John Lasseter's hiring.
Jeez.
Yeah. But the thing that I kind of the tangent that I want to go on here, and then I promise we'll get to our Upside review, is that I was reading up on this and about kind of like the backlash of him being hired there and how, I guess he did like a town hall kind of meeting for the employees, I guess. I'll put links to all this in the show notes, but one article that I saw was that, first of all, I believe that people can be, remorseful for their past behavior and grow from that, and they can be rehabilitated in a sense,
Right.
to where that they can people have the capacity to recognize past behavior being negative and harmful, and then making adjustments so that they don't behave that way. That is something that's possible. With people in general, like the amount of people that have the capability to grow that way, that's questionable, because there are a lot of just terrible, despicable people who will just, instead of doing literally anything else, will record a video of them talking in character about how much you love them, despite what heinous shit that he's done. I'm talking about Kevin Spacey. And anyway, so the thing that I wanted to bring up is that Disney, like in the John Lasseter, like oeuvre of allegations, like there have been tons of allegations levied at him, or not even allegations, just reports of like his behavior. Like, oh, he would rub women, like female employees, like legs inappropriately and try to like slide his hand up their skirts and stuff.
Jesus.
He would have people tell young, attractive employees, animators, what have you, that they're not allowed in a meeting with him because he would get too distracted and stare at them.
Jeez.
At functions, Disney hired or had buffers, like people, like handlers for him, so that he would not act inappropriately.
Wow.
Yes. And I say all of this because, and beating a dead horse, it's in the past and everything, but still, it's like I guess, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm not making the right point, but like the fact that Disney can knowingly like do that, like protect someone in power, like at Pixar, like that is doing just shitty things, terrible things, yet they'll fire James Gunn.
Yeah,
because
really.
tweets that had nothing to, like, were clearly jokes and had nothing to do with the Disney brand. Well, their subjects of them were Disney. They were written before, like, not on Disney's payroll.
Yeah.
It's just like, there's just this weird disconnect there in my brain. Like, I don't know. I'm still bitter about James Gunn getting fired. I mean, it's in the past.
Me too.
Like,
yeah.
But it's like, it's weird to me that they can be like, well, okay, these, someone on the opposite side of the political spectrum dug up these tweets. James Gunn, you're fired from this project that you have brought in billions of dollars for,
right,
and everything. Meanwhile, hey, we've got to get these guys over here, to make sure that John Lasseter doesn't grope any women. Like, it's just, it's a weird disconnect there.
Yeah, very hypocritical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't mean to go on such a tangent.
I hadn't heard that about John Lasseter. That's disturbing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's like an Oscar winner.
Yeah. And I guess he would, like, very inappropriately hug women and, like, kiss them. Like, from what I understand, it's like a kind of a greeting, like, how I don't know anyone that's done this in real life, but like, like how in movies, like, someone will hug another person, like kiss their cheek or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like he would take that, but do it like a little bit farther and kiss them on the lips and like slip them the tongue, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. That's assault.
Yeah, exactly. And then there was something else that I read that he would do. Not that he would do, but like, apparently like this was obviously it was a widespread enough thing where like they had to fucking bring in handlers so that he wouldn't, that he would behave appropriately. But also like, colloquially, there was like around like, women that were under his employ, like a common expression that, like they would have to do like a maneuver, like they would have to Lasseter, like they made his name into the name of like a maneuver or a way to like, oh, don't get Lassetered.
Jeez.
And it's just like, it is. So now he's at Skydance. I don't know how long, but yeah, it's just, yeah.
It's a shame we can't go a week without news like this.
I know. Well, this has been like public for a while,
right?
But yeah. But I mean, the silver lining is that it's being reported. It's out there.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
People know this and everything.
It's disheartening, but it has to happen, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yep. But let's look on the upside of things and review the upside. Of course, we're going to go into a non-spoiler review and then go into a spoiler. Tiny, you said that you were excited for it. I was more excited at the idea of you using A-list for the first time.
Yeah.
Not that I wasn't excited for it. Like the trailers, I've seen it like a bunch of times at this point, and I was just kind of like, okay, it looks like it has potential to be okay. Looks a little schmaltzy, but
yeah. I
mean, it looks like it could be kind of fun. And I saw some kind of mixed to negative reviews on like Letterboxd, and I was like, this doesn't seem like a Fantastic Four situation or anything. It doesn't seem like it's a complete unmitigated disaster. It just seems like it's a middle of the road kind of movie that some people like and some people don't. So I was like, okay, we'll see how it is. So having said that, Tiny, overall thoughts, broad thoughts, what did you think of the upside?
Overall, pretty positive.
Nice.
I think the linchpin of the quality of the film is the chemistry and relationship between Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston, Del and Philip. That is what the entire movie hinges on. And I think even if you have, a story that's kind of generic or kind of sappy or just a little too conveniently positive, something like that, or any other criticisms that you can make about the story. I think if you have that chemistry between these two leads, the two main characters, it can really ease those other issues of the film. I think it can carry the movie in my book.
Yeah.
And for me, their chemistry was fantastic, and their performances together were fantastic. I loved the comedy; it worked for me, and it completely carried the movie for me. Like, I have a very positive opinion of the film,
Nice.
Just because of that. Frankly, I think Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston work super well together. But I think the movie has a handful, or maybe even quite a few shortcomings. I think I got some flashes of how you described the movie Green Book earlier.
Oh, yes.
And it's how it's kind of a feel good movie, and this is kind of the same thing. And that same comparison was made in a Slash Film article that you shared with me.
Yeah, did you read that, by the way?
I did read
Nice.
that. Yeah, it was
really good.
Very well written. It frames everything really well.
Yeah, for context, the article was written by a disabled writer who was upset that, his position was more that he was upset with the way the movie
there was good and bad
presented. Yeah.
Yeah.
A very, very well done article. I'll link to it in the show notes.
Definitely worth a read if you're going to see the movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I appreciate what he said about it, but yeah, I saw I can understand some of the issues with it, how it's very, it kind of, takes a semi-shitty situation and kind of shines it up and makes it pretty for a feel-good movie. You know what I'm saying? It hides a lot of the realities of what it's like to be a quadriplegic.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit unrealistic in that respect, in the pursuit of a happy feel-good film. So right. I totally understand those criticisms. I don't even disagree with them. And I picked up on them in the film. But like I said, all of that for me was, for the most part, overshadowed by the really good chemistry, and the comedy just worked. I laughed a lot.
Nice.
And it was from both Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston, and some of the other performances. I really thought that was kind of great. But the movie overall, I thought, was a good, enjoyable movie. I was able to kind of set aside or overlook some of the issues because of the other quality of the film.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to point out real quick. There was one, I think it was a woman, in the row that we were sitting in who was loving the comedy.
Yeah.
She was very much in it. And more power to her, but I'm like, like, as jaded as I am, I'm like, I've seen that line is in the trailer. Like, I've seen this trailer like 50 times.
Right. I think that symptom or whatever, or that reaction, is that Kevin Hart is like huge. He's like one of the biggest comedy actors in the world right now. And so people are like, that's Kevin Hart. He's hilarious. I know he's hilarious. So anytime he says anything remotely funny, you just laugh.
Yeah.
It's like an involuntary reaction. And like, that's how people were with Will Ferrell, I think, for a while, where some of the movies he made were just kind of, but like we thought they were better than they were, or like, it's Will Ferrell, so I'm laughing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. And I feel like that's kind of my issue when these actors get so big in a particular genre. It's like, well, I have to like it.
And we've talked about that before, how it's more about their brand than their content.
Melissa McCarthy was huge. And it was like, she's kind of playing the same character. And like, you could make the same argument about Will Ferrell in the early to mid 2000s, or Kevin Hart right now, Melissa McCarthy 3-4 years ago. It's kind of a pattern. And it's like, I think they kind of find their way out of it. And I think I think this is the beginning of that for Kevin Hart, because I think he demonstrated in this movie he has some pretty good acting chops, and he can do some dramatic flares and stuff like that.
Also, just real quick, that reminds me of the Family Guy bit where Peter's in the theater watching Philadelphia, and he's like, "Oh, that's Tom Hanks. He's the guy from Big. Very funny."
Yeah.
And then shows him saying like, "I have AIDS," and he's like, so dumb. But anyway, it's interesting. I am not as favorable on the movie as you are.
Okay.
I will echo your sentiments about the chemistry between Hart and Cranston. They work really well together. And I feel like they elevated what was maybe not the best script. To a level where it was more enjoyable than it really kind of had any right to be, for me and my personal tastes. I felt like the movie was hampered quite a bit because it felt like I have no way of corroborating this, or I have no context for this, but from my personal taste, it felt like the movie suffered from a lot of editing, like in post. So the plot line and the storyline and everything and the different plot threads felt very cobbled together for me. For example, like the movie starts like right off the bat, Bryan Cranston is telling Nicole Kidman, like, we need to make sure my DNR is signed, and if I stop breathing, don't resuscitate me. And it's very clear, like, okay, he wants to die. He doesn't want to live anymore. And that's a compelling character trait or character introduction. And we get scenes where he is having dreams about his dead wife and of the accident that led to him being a quadriplegic. And like all of that is very compelling in the first 15 minutes, or it's maybe not very compelling, but it's compelling enough to make me think like, okay, this can go into some really interesting, dramatic, avenues and everything. But as soon as Kevin Hart is, his caregiver, that's just completely taken away. Like,
right.
Suddenly, like, it's not a spoiler because the movie shifts to a different storyline, essentially. Like, he's not thinking about the accident. He's not thinking about his wife, per se. There's this introduction of this subplot involving a pen pal that comes out of nowhere to me. And then, like, that carries through for most of the movie. And then the movie kind of tries to tie itself together in a way that didn't feel very genuine to me, because it felt like they were just kind of going through the beats, and like they have like characters come into play in different contexts that didn't really fit well with me, as far as like it didn't give me any closure for the movie, because it just felt kind of cobbled together. And I'll talk in more detail in spoilers, but it just felt like a movie that was kind of pieced together and maybe focus grouped quite a bit.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess I didn't pick up on that as much when I was watching it, but now that you say it, I definitely think you're right.
And what's interesting is the movie does this kind of trick because, like, I remember when we were walking out of the theater, like you were saying that you enjoyed it, and I was like, yeah, I think I did too, or I thought it was okay, and then like I remember saying like I don't know why I didn't really like it that much. Like I couldn't put like it was fine. Like it was in like those few minutes after the movie, like it was my feelings on it were, you know, just kind of meh, but I thought it was a competently made movie with good chemistry from the lead actors. Mm-hmm. But then as I started to think about it more, it just felt like the narrative structure was just not to my liking.
Yeah, to follow that thread, I do think they skipped over or they missed out on the potential for a lot of really compelling drama, in favor of comedy.
Yeah.
And that's sort of a matter of taste, I guess, but I think the better film would have been in pursuing more of the dramatic influences in the movie. Mm-hmm. Like you said, Nicole Kidman was a very thankless character.
Yeah.
That there was a lot of potential there between Bryan Cranston and her and Kevin Hart and her for a lot of dramatic moments. And those were kind of shelved or kind of not capitalized upon. And I think there was a lot of good story there that didn't get told, basically.
Absolutely.
And that's a balance. Like it made me think of the movie Reign Over Me.
Okay, sure.
Written and directed by Mike Binder, which I love that movie. Mm-hmm. There are some hilarious moments in that movie, but they're basically the hilarious moments, the funny parts are bookends to some extreme drama.
Yeah.
And like that script for Reign Over Me and the story is mountains better than what they did with this. Mm-hmm. Like with the Upside. The Upside had the potential to be that kind of emotional roller coaster, up, down. Like you literally have a tear in your eye and then you have a tear in your eye and then you laugh.
Yeah.
Like that's this story I think could have the potential for that. But they in that respect they missed the mark.
Yeah.
So thinking about it more, I think you're right, and those are kind of some semi-glaring issues with this movie.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll have to expand more on it in spoilers because there are some nits that I want to pick with it. But you bringing up Reign Over Me reminds me that a much better made movie, and for lack of a better word, that kind of deals with caregiving and everything in a much more interesting way is The Fundamentals of Caring. Paul Rudd and I can't remember the kid's name. He was in Red Oaks on Amazon, but he's I think he's British. But anyway, he plays a teenager with, I think it's like cerebral palsy or muscular dystrophy.
Okay.
And he's wheelchair bound, and Paul Rudd plays a guy who is hired as his caregiver, and he goes on he takes him on I don't know if it's cross country or an extended road trip. And it's like, it is what The Upside could have been.
Okay.
It's compelling. It's funny where like you'll laugh one minute and kind of be tearing up in the next minute, and performances are fantastic. And, I would really recommend seeing The Fundamentals of Caring.
Okay. Little Miss Sunshine.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Balance those two genres, if you will, really well.
Yeah.
Maybe I just kind of thought of that. I don't know.
Sure. But The Upside did, I don't know, like, and there were leaps that it made for the characters. Again, we'll talk more in spoilers. I'm dancing around it a little bit, but like, there perfect example. There's a subplot involving a book. That's all I'll say about it. That looks like it could lead to a manufactured kind of dramatic run of events. But if it was handled better, it could have been a more compelling kind of dramatic thing. So there's like this tension throughout the movie. And then when that storyline is paid off, it's it's just kind of just thrown away. Like there's no like consequence or no payoff to the dramatic tension of that subplot that is kind of running undercurrent of Kevin Hart's character and Bryan Cranston's character's blossoming friendship. Like when it didn't have a payoff that I found acceptable.
I actually disagree on that.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. We'll have to talk more in spoilers, but that's interesting.
I think the payoff was a bit more between him and his son than it was between him and Bryan Cranston.
Yeah,
I think that was the direction that plot line needed to go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Which we can talk about more.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that in
Expand
spoilers.
on it.
Yeah. What else can we say in non-spoilers? I feel like this is kind of brief, but that's fine.
Yeah, it is. Well, that's non-spoilers, so
Yeah.
I don't know what else can be said about it.
I will say this. I left the theater and as I kind of ruminated on the movie, I was really, I wouldn't say disappointed, but I would have liked a lot more, to their relationship, to Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston's characters, their relationship and their growth. I would have liked to have seen more of Kevin Hart learning how to be a caregiver. Because like we get the scene that's in the trailer where he's strapping him into the chair and then he's like he forgets to strap him in and he starts to lean over. And there are certain things that should be dramatic, should be, I hate to compare the movie to another movie, but like the fundamentals of caring. That kind of opened my eyes a little bit to like, holy crap, this whole idea of being a caregiver for someone, I think this says more about me than anything, but like the fact that someone is, dependent on you to live.
Yeah.
Is just like, I don't understand how people can do that because I'm, a monster who only thinks of himself. But,
takes a special kind of person to do that.
It's like a stress. There's stress to that. And I wish that the upside would have factored that into its storytelling because I didn't feel like there was much, if any, tension to Kevin Hart learning the ways of being a caregiver. Granted, that's not really the story that's being told in the movie, but I feel like that's pretty integral to the relationship of the two characters in the movie because I mean he literally walks in off the street and he gets hired for this job, which we'll talk about that in spoilers because I also have another thing about that and nit to pick about that, but he literally knows nothing about this job. He's unqualified. And we get like maybe 2 scenes of him doing the job, and then suddenly it's like, okay, well, we're like best friends now. Oh, hey, you have a pen pal. Let's go down that road.
Right.
It just felt like, I don't know. It felt like there was a disconnect there that I feel like the movie, it was a huge missed opportunity for the movie.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. And yeah, so it's a 2019 release technically. Is it your movie of the year?
No. I don't. It's not.
I meant that as in like because it's the only 2019.
Oh yeah, it's the only 2019. Yeah.
I made that joke to Mike on our bonus episode.
Hilarious.
I know.
But no, I don't. It won't be an honorable mention. I can't see it being an honorable mention even. So even though I did enjoy it, didn't have enough there.
Do you think you'll ever see it again?
I might watch it with Paige, possibly.
Do you think she'll like it?
I think she will. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So
cool.
How about you? Number 1 movie of the year so far?
It is slightly below Escape Room. Yeah, and I had a lot of problems with it that we'll get into here in a moment. But overall, I thought that it was what you would. It's a kind of schmaltzy, dramatic comedy that kind of plays it a little bit safe when it comes to the drama of the movie.
Gotcha.
And the biggest kind of critique I have on it is that it really, really felt cobbled together. It felt like there were leaps in the story that did not connect with me in any significant way, and we'll talk about more about that. But let's go into spoilers and let's talk about that.
Okay.
So we're going to go into spoilers for The Upside. I'm going to play a clip from the trailer, and then we'll go into spoilers. So enjoy this clip from the trailer for The Upside.
You need to prove you're looking for work.
I've been looking, trust me.
3 signatures by tomorrow, or you can tell it to the judge. Tell me about a time when you worked hard to solve a problem.
This morning, getting up.
We're gonna find you someone you like.
Let me be your arms and your legs.
I love that. All right.
Penthouse.
You need to wait your turn.
Relax, it's not a hold-up. Just sign this one, please.
How would I sign it?
I don't know. Slowly. What, don't your arms work?
They don't.
You can move your mouth.
As can you. I need assistance.
How much does it pay? Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. It's my bad, man.
You are not qualified for this position.
Then buckle!
Have you ever changed a catheter?
Nah.
Pinch the head, insert.
I can't feel it.
Oh, well, I can. You want to feed your soul? Then listen to its clue. Think about what you're trying to do to me. It's amazing, ain't it? It sounds just like her.
Yeah, it's uncanny.
Okay, and we are spoilers on for The Upside.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start off with the ending. That's probably not the best way, but no. Let's backtrack. Let's start at the beginning. So the whole post-traumatic stress, grieving widow angle of Bryan Cranston's character, I felt like that was dumped entirely after the first act of the movie. Within the first 15 to 20 minutes of the movie. Because we get like him having visions of his wife and him having visions and dreams of the accident. Like we get a POV shot of him paragliding and it's the accident. Add to that the fact that he doesn't want to be resuscitated if he stops breathing, and it's hinted at this, and then this is where I feel like the movie doesn't know what type of movie it wants to be, or it was edited out of being the type of movie that it was originally intended to be. Because the first couple of scenes with Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston, Kevin Hart's like, "Why did you hire me?" And there's one point where he's like, "Oh, you hired me because you want me to honor the do not resuscitate. You know that I'll let you, I won't resuscitate you or anything." And then Bryan Cranston just kind of leaves the room and doesn't say anything. And like in that moment I was like, "Oh, that's kind of deep. Like, holy shit, this is going to be an interesting movie where he is dealing with the grief of losing his wife and losing his mobility." And he's going to come to terms with it through this quirky relationship with his caregiver. And it's going to be interesting. But there's nothing to that. Like there's nothing to his revitalized life. It's just because it's, it's like, oh, he met Kevin Hart. Cool. And it felt just very, it just did not connect with me and felt very, lackluster for me. Did you get any of that, or how did you feel about
I don't think you're wrong. I think you might be right there, but I think the only friction I'll give you on that is I genuinely think that through his new relationship with Dell, Kevin Hart's character, I think it's giving him a new lease on life, or like a new look at his past experiences, and he's not dwelling on them as much. I think through Dell, he's kind of genuinely starting to enjoy his life a little bit more.
And I'll agree with you totally.
Yeah.
And that...
It's still a missed opportunity, like you said, for quality drama.
Right. And then...
Yeah.
Absolutely. And honestly, if that were just it, I would kind of just chalk that up to my personal taste.
Mm-hmm.
But... I agree that's there, that he does get this new lease on life. It livens him up to have a friend in Kevin Hart. But the pen pal thing, that kind of grated on my nerves a little bit, because again, we had, like, he's grieving his wife, like he's missing his wife. the sentimental value of the books that Dell stole one from, like, that's the reason why Dell wants to get the book back, because he knows it holds such a significant sentimental value to Philip. But then suddenly, like, it's like night and day, two completely different movies, because suddenly it's like, oh, Nicole Kidman has this envelope from his pen pal. It's like, oh, he doesn't answer these anymore. And then suddenly it's like, oh wait, now he wants to answer him. Now he's writing back. So it's like, so at one point he's grieving the loss of his wife, like, so much so that he wants to die and he doesn't want to be resuscitated or anything. But then also at the same time, he has had in the recent past a deep enough connection to someone that he's just writing, which they don't really talk about how they found each other.
Yeah, that's
like,
weird.
It's literally, like, it feels like it's just put in there in
it's cut for time or something.
Yeah, I
agree on that.
Yeah, and then that is a significant plot point in the entire movie, and not to say that it's all bad, because the actual date scene I thought was one of the more compelling moments of the entire movie.
Definitely.
Yeah, which we'll get to that in a moment, but just the introduction of it just felt really sloppy, because, like, there is nothing else about his wife in the movie after that point.
Yeah.
And then also it just bugged me, and this is maybe more of a personal issue, I guess, but I feel like and it's jumping around a little bit, but the ending where Kevin Hart takes him paragliding, I felt like that was, it wasn't earned, like, at all, because, again, like, it feels like the first 15 minutes of this movie are a completely different movie, because he's having flashes in his dreams of the accident that paralyzed him, and he's grieving his wife and everything. So, like, the thing that rectifies their entire relationship and makes him happy is that Kevin Hart's, like, taking him to relive that accident. Like, there's nothing that's like, I would have taken something that had like Philip saying something to the effect of, like, like, paragliding was the most fun I've ever had in my life, and this was, like, now it's not, I wish I could do it again. Like something, but, like, it just seemed, I don't know. It seems like, this is maybe a sloppy comparison, but it's like, your life was changed because you got shot. We're gonna have hardships in our friendship, but I'm gonna rectify it by taking you to the gun range. It just feels, like, really bizarre, and it didn't fit for me at all. It felt like, again, and I keep going back to this, it felt like it was cobbled together in the editing room, that they needed an uplifting ending. Uplifting, no pun intended. And they just decided to just tack that on. It felt just so, it did not work for me.
Yeah.
What did you think of all the stuff that I've been throwing at the wall here?
I think you're right about the ending. I think it was just kind of a generic thing.
Yeah.
That they, like, I could sit here and make an argument. It's like, well, Kevin Hart wanted to, and, afterwards he called in Yvonne, and so he met Yvonne, so he was reassociating his character with something positive associated to paragliding. I don't think that was the influence for that storytelling choice.
Right.
I think you're right. They just wanted to have something inspiring and positive at the end of the movie. But the book thing, I wanted to come back to.
Yeah, let's go back to that.
What was the sentimental value of the book?
Basically, the books that are on the shelf, there are all, I believe that Philip said that they were first editions, but it was, every year, either for his birthday or their anniversary, his wife would get him a new one, like a new first edition.
I thought he was talking about the paintings.
No, I thought it was the books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
well, I missed that part.
Okay. Because, like, during that, I was like, that's why I felt like the book and the discovery of him having stolen the book is a ticking time bomb for the dramatic tension of the friendship, because, they're becoming, like, they're close and they're becoming good friends and everything. And then suddenly, like, you would expect, just in general narrative, like, ideas, then, like, he stole a book, he becomes friends with the owner of the book finds out that he stole the book, owner of the book is angry at him, so he has to redeem himself in the owner's eyes. Instead, what the movie does is he stole the book. Owner doesn't know he stole the book. Owner becomes friends with him. His son gives him the book, and then it's literally like, oh, it's all right. People change. It's fine. It's just like there's no dramatic payoff to him having stolen the book.
See, I didn't realize there was. I missed the part about the significance of the book.
Okay.
That's why I didn't feel that. Because throughout the movie, it's kind of demonstrated how Bryan Cranston's character doesn't necessarily value material things. Or he's not he kind of just dismisses his really awesome car collection that he has. And he has this artwork around where there's this scene where they smash all this stuff, and so I think it's kind of something they reinforce. He doesn't take him on a tour of his apartment to show off all this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He's a super rich person, and he just gives charities $10,000 because he just doesn't. He's not a very consumer or material driven person. It seems like he has all this stuff just because he's supposed to or he can. And so that's what I was thinking about the book, is he didn't really care about him taking the book because he doesn't necessarily put a ton of value on material things.
Okay.
But with that revelation, I have to agree with you because I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it bugged me quite a bit.
But I do think there was payoff between the conflict between him and his son with that storyline.
And I'll agree with you there. Also, and it's not my place to make this comparison or this thing, but it just felt like. First of all, I'm living in a post-Green Book world. Let me rephrase that. I'm living in a post-Green Book winning Best Screenplay at the Golden Globes world. I've been thinking so much about Green Book and how it, what was the... I thought today, and I was gonna tweet this, but I felt like it's not relevant enough because, maybe when it gets... If it sweeps at the Oscars or whatever, then I'll go on my soapbox online and everything, but... Green Book feels like the type of movie that your racist aunt, not your specific racist aunt, a person's racist aunt would watch to feel good about themselves or watch to feel happy about the state of race relations and stuff, while at the same time talking about how we need to build a wall and keep immigrants out and cross the street when an African American is walking down the sidewalk next to them.
Yeah, something like that.
It's just that type of movie. But anyway, I was going to connect that to the Upside. I don't remember how. Oh man, I had it. The type of movie that. The book. Okay. That's how I was going to connect it, because it feels like Dell's character, his arc through the movie, it felt like there's a point in the trailer and in the birthday party scene where he's where Dell is I'm sorry you have to have a party with all your friends in your giant mansion. Some of us have real problems. I'm trying to see my son again. And I get that, but also it kind of bugs me because it's okay, well, people have different personal issues, everyone's fighting their own battle and stuff this
everybody has problems.
Exactly. It's but anyway, the ending kind of message in the movie to me kind of felt a little I don't know it. And again, this is not my place to make this comparison, but on the from my perspective, it kind of felt like it was well, everything will be okay as long as if you work for the right rich white man who will give you enough money to buy your family, a house and everything. Also, the whole, I don't know. I'm rambling and jumping around and everything. No, the painting thing I actually really liked.
Okay, I thought that was funny.
That was great. For context, if you're listening to this without watching it, the painting, Dell makes a painting that's objectively pretty terrible and amateurish.
It's a joke.
It's a joke, yeah. And then there's Tate Donovan's character, who is not in the movie enough. I feel like he was, I kind of feel like he was edited out of the movie almost, because we get the introductory scene in the parking garage, and then we get the scene where Dell brings prostitutes or strippers or ladies of the night back to the penthouse, and he locks eyes with Tate Donovan's character, and it's like clear like Tate Donovan doesn't like him, and it's kind of a racial kind of thing.
Yeah.
That kind of felt like it was, kind of sloppy and everything, but it's paid off because of the painting.
Yeah.
So Bryan Cranston sells the painting to Tate Donovan's character for $50,000 after Tate Donovan told him, basically saying that, basically being pretentious and overtly, or maybe a little more subtle than that, subtly racist, about Dell. And then Cranston Philip is just like, oh, this painting is really impressive. I think he's hinting that it might be a Banksy.
Yeah.
Basically, conning him into buying it. So I liked that a lot in terms of payoff for the characters, but I mean, that kind of scene and that kind of payoff is kind of few and far between for me.
Right.
Yeah, anything what's up? I feel like I'm rambling. I don't mean to, but
no, you're good.
Yeah.
The only last defense I'll make for it is that, and not that I even care, I don't necessarily care that people are kind of not enjoying the movie as well, or kind of, because I think it's deserved, but just personally enjoyed it. But the last defense I'll make for it is that it does have that kind of feel-good, happy ending to it, and overall feel to the movie overall is kind of a happy, feel-good thing. But in defense of that, it's a true story, and in real life, it was actually a happy thing that happened, and a true thing. And so, sometimes stories have happy endings, and sometimes, so I don't. But you could throw more drama and suspense, or what's the word I'm trying to think of? Controversy into the story and still have a happy or positive ending. Again, I go back to Reign Over Me. I don't want to spoil that, but see the ending of that movie. It's kind of ambiguous, iffy, still positive, but not necessarily a happy feeling. So that's possible, but again, like I said, it's a true story, so that's kind of a defense, that in real life, this is how it actually happened.
Right?
There was it was a happy feeling, a happy ending. So
yeah, and I don't want to speak out of turn, because I don't have the knowledge base to really run with this thought that I'm gonna present without research. The ending of the movie, it ends with a little script that says Dell and Philip are still friends to this day, and it's oh, that's sweet,
right?
But then right after that, it's based on the 2011 French film The Untouchables, and I'm thinking okay, well, Dell and Philip don't exist. There's if the true story is these, presumably these French people who are similar, I think it's Philippe and I don't know, I don't know, Dell with an accent or something. But I'm just thinking it just felt like that was again something that was just tacked on. They're friends to this day. In this version of the story, they're friends to this day. Because I feel that I don't think that the movie doesn't, from what I've heard, the movie doesn't end the way that The Untouchables ends. Okay. Which I really wish I would have had the chance to watch that movie. But it felt like that was just kind of a cookie cutter kind of way to end it, because again, I feel like they didn't know how to end the movie.
Right.
And having Nicole Kidman come up and that felt really tacked on too.
They don't even talk.
They don't. And it's implied that, okay, they'll have their little, I don't know if romantic relationship or whatever, but it's implied that they're romantically interested in each other, and it's supposed to be this whole thing where it's oh, Nicole Kidman has been there all along and everything, and it's well, really the only and again, this is my cynical side, and I have no grounds to know whether or not this is the case, but it felt like the way that it's presented in the movie, it felt like the scenes, there's like 2 scenes where Kevin Hart's like implying that Philip and Yvonne should hook up and everything. It felt like that's like reshoot, like that's reshot and like inserted into the story.
Yeah, that payoff at the end wasn't built up to very well.
Yeah,
like throughout the movie, I was like, well, do they actually like each other? I don't understand. Like, do they actually have romantic feelings towards one another?
Right.
And it wasn't really played up enough in my book.
Yeah, and like the kind of time lapse of like suddenly like they're not friends anymore. They have the falling out, and then Philip grows his depression beard, and then suddenly, like, this is the sense I got from it, which I kind of, like, thought, okay, this is just tidying it up a little too neatly and kind of sillily, that suddenly Dell has this warehouse of, like, he is running a company, presumably, that's like manufacturing these.
He has like a managerial position.
Yeah. Like I got the impression that they were wanting us to believe that he started this company and he is now doing this. And I'm like, in what fucking world can he start a company?
Yeah.
And be that like in presumably a shortened amount of time. Like it just felt like it was very, I don't know. It felt weird and disjointed to me. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the movie is similar to what I said in the bonus review of Escape Room that I recorded with Mike. This is the type of movie that, granted, had I not seen the trailer dozens of times before seeing it, like in a year, I would go back and go through my letterbox and think, "Oh yeah, The Upside, I saw that."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave it 3 stars on Letterboxd and 6 on IMDb. So
nice.
Positive, but not resoundingly.
Yeah, I gave it 2 stars. So.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, but anyway, we're here in January. It's January. So
yeah.
That's what we've got to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let us know what you thought of The Upside. Any parting thoughts on The Upside?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, just to reinforce that I genuinely like Kevin Hart a lot in this. Like, This is my favorite role of his that I've seen.
Nice.
I really liked him, yeah.
And really quickly, and this deserves to be a bigger discussion and everything, but how did you feel about Bryan Cranston in terms of him playing a disabled man but being able-bodied?
I don't think it's controversial at all. I mean, name a quadriplegic actor.
Well,
I'm sure there's some out there. I know there are, but this is a business. Like I always go back to this. This is a business, and part of the business is like you want to draw a crowd, and one of the ways you draw a crowd is you cast popular, quality, charismatic actors in large roles. And Bryan Cranston gets big roles for a reason. He's a damn good actor.
Yeah,
and I just don't see the controversy at all. I don't know if it would have. I can't say this with any confidence, but I don't know if it would have been as good a movie if they had cast an actual quadriplegic actor or a quadriplegic person who doesn't have acting experience. I don't think that would have added quality to the film.
Right.
I'm not saying that a quadriplegic person can't act, because I think they absolutely could. I'm just saying that I don't agree with that controversy. I'll put it that way. Now, like with some of like the racial whitewashing and stuff that's going on in Hollywood, with most commonly, I think Asian are the ones that come to mind. Like white people in roles that should be played by an Asian person. That's pretty egregious,
right?
And I think that's a problem. And like I agree with that one, but I think I just think this is different.
Yeah, and I get that. To your point about like naming a quadriplegic actor, I can't. But I think that's also somewhat of the point of it. Like, if someone is a quadriplegic, they don't feel like if they have that kind of acting gene or that drive, like there's no roles for them that they could go for. And granted, there are extenuating circumstances. This is a movie that is being financed and produced by a studio that they want recognizable names and everything. That it's the same thing that we talked about with a Skyscraper with Dwayne Johnson playing the role of an above the knee amputee.
Right.
But I just want to give a shout out real quick to the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge. I spoke to one of the people in charge of that at Heartland this year. Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge. It's a nonprofit organization that is very much geared toward, you know, people collaborating, filmmakers and artists who have any type of disability, working and networking and collaborating and stuff. And it's a really great organization. I got such a high off of talking to the guy. I'm so sorry. I can't remember his name. I'm terrible, but, go back and listen to, the episode there. But anyway, the 2019 Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge, it is, I think it's kind of like a, 48-hour film project kind of idea.
Okay.
This year it's April 5th to the 7th, 2019. You can find more information at disabilityfilmchallenge.com. And yeah, that's just like I bring that up because there are tons of people, I'm sure, who have various kinds of disabilities that would love the chance to perform and be a part of a production and everything, that they get overlooked because I don't want to say, I almost said like because the Bryan Cranstons of the world, not that Bryan Cranston taking the role is an inherently negative thing, because I think he caught a little bit of controversy that I don't necessarily agree with because he said that like he's an actor, that's what he does, he's performing, and like the way that the Slash Film article says that like if that can bring him to like if that can put him in the mindset of like what it's like to be disabled, like that's a win for their camp and everything.
Right.
So it's something that like we as able-bodied men and we like, I don't think we really have the, knowledge base to really discuss it in too much detail.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. But I just want to shout out the disabilityfilmchallenge.com, disabilityfilmchallenge.com, for more information on that. But yeah.
The way that controversy is addressed in the Slash Film article is well said, and much better than I did. Anyways, I agree with his position on it. I think he also kind of said that he wasn't like upset that Bryan Cranston was cast in the role,
right?
But he understands why some people were, or the quote unquote controversy with it. Yeah,
yeah, yep. I think that'll do it for our review of The Upside. And I know that we're running a little bit over on our time. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But real quick, let's kind of round us out with some potpourri. Are you game for that?
Yes.
Okay. So for first time listeners, potpourri is a section of the podcast where we basically wind things down. We talk about whatever we're into, what we're looking forward to, what we've seen recently, anything we want, as long as it smells good, it's potpourri. Tiny, I have 2 things, you have uno things, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to go first. Let me bring up my notes here. The first thing I want to bring up is If Beale Street Could Talk. So are you familiar with this movie at all?
I've just seen the previews for it.
Okay. Have you seen Moonlight?
I still haven't seen it yet.
Me neither.
Yeah,
but,
I feel bad.
Yeah, but after seeing If Beale Street Could Talk, I really want to see Moonlight. I need to go back and watch it.
Nice.
Basically, If Beale Street Could Talk is a story of a woman who is basically pregnant in 1970s New York, and her fiance is incarcerated. And it's basically about racism and how the criminal justice system kind of stacks the deck against African Americans. Directed by Barry Jenkins. It is a phenomenal movie. It is gorgeous. Like, it is so beautifully filmed and beautifully captured. Like, it's like, it was breathtaking to me. Like, it's set in the 70s and everything is, era appropriate. So like costume design, and just the basic set design and set construction is just very much 70s. But it has this, undercurrent through it, that it's essentially basically Tish, played by Kiki Lane, plays Tish, and like the movie is about her and her family trying. The kind of log line is, the plot description is: a woman in Harlem embraces her pregnancy while she and her family struggle to prove her fiancé innocent of a crime. And it's not, like, that's not necessarily what the movie as a whole is, because a lot of it is told in flashbacks, and it kind of goes back and forth between the present and the past. And the greatest thing about this movie, the most just objectively beautiful thing about this movie, is the way that the love story of Tish and Fonnie, played by Stefan James, the way that their love story is depicted. Like, I fell in love with the love that they shared. Like, it is so pure and beautiful, and it's just, it is so heartbreaking at times and genuine, and like there were times throughout the movie where I got teary-eyed. Like, I had to kind of hold back tears, not because of anything necessarily inherently dramatic happening on screen. I'll give you an example. So there is a moment with a very kind of bizarre cameo appearance by Dave Franco, oddly enough. So the movie kind of jumps back and forth between the past and the present. So there's a scene where Fonnie and Tish are walking down the street after having met with a character played by Dave Franco. Very heartfelt scene. There's a great line that Dave Franco's character says, that he digs people who love each other, or he digs, I forget exactly what he said, but it's a very kind of beautiful turn of phrase that I can't remember. But it's after the scene that they're walking down the street and they just explode in this celebration of, like, excitement for their future. And at this point in the movie, like, you know that they don't have that future. And it's like, it is so heartbreaking, not because the movie is trying to manipulate you into feeling, like, sad for their story. It's just the movie has roped you in and has brought you into their relationship, and you having that knowledge of the future makes it so heartbreaking in a very organic and non-manufactured way. It's beautiful, beautiful storytelling. And I do want to single out another thing about it. Brian Tyree Henry. He is a force to be reckoned with. I loved him in Widows. I just recently started watching Atlanta. I'm about 5 or 6 episodes in. He's killing it on that show, as Paperboy. But in this movie, and If Beale Street Could Talk, he has one scene. And, one scene that, like, he delivers a monologue that it is one of the best acted monologues I've seen in a long time.
Wow.
And it's haunting, and it's just, it informs the story in such a vivid way without showing anything. It's so beautifully constructed, and the movie is beautifully written. It's based on a James Baldwin novel from the 70s. But then the final thing I'll say is that there's a scene also earlier in the movie where Tish is telling her family about the pregnancy, and they then bring in more characters, and they tell the characters. The way that this scene is constructed, conceived, performed, edited, everything is vibrant. It's beautiful, because it feels like you're in the audience of a stage play, and it's like everything, like it's an ensemble that people are going back and forth, and it's so captivating and well acted that I love that scene. But yeah, anyway, that's If Beale Street Could Talk. It is, it's great. It probably would have cracked my top 10 if I had seen it before.
Wow.
The Year in Review episode.
Huh.
Can't oversay it enough. Very beautiful, very moving, very powerful. I loved it. Yeah.
Nice.
In Tiny, it is currently playing at Southern Plaza.
Okay.
So, A-list.
Yeah, I'll try to see it.
Yeah. So that's my first potpourri.
Cool.
What do you got?
I wanted to talk about a comedy special, actually, that I saw on Netflix. I don't talk about comedy specials a lot, but my wife just kind of found scrolling through Netflix the latest special from Neal Brennan. It's called 3 Mics. It just kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't even know that Neal Brennan did stand up. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that. I remember when he kind of got famous for Chappelle's show.
Yeah.
And I remember reading in interviews about him talking about the end of that and all that stuff. He was kind of holding a winning lottery ticket and had it ripped out of his hand, sort of. But yeah, I wasn't even familiar that he did. I wasn't even familiar with him as a stand-up comic. But we started watching the show, and just the setup and the structure of it was something I hadn't seen before. It's called 3 Mics because there are 3 mics on stage, and at each microphone, he kind of employs a different method of communicating with the audience. One of the microphones is just him literally kind of saying one-liner jokes, and then another microphone is him doing more traditional narrative style stand-up, and then the third microphone, he actually shares kind of stories from his life. It's more of an insight into who he is as a person, and it's not as blatantly funny. It's kind of situationally funny, but it's more dramatic than anything else. It's actually kind of cuts to who he is as a person, and his experiences in life that have kind of influenced who he is. And I was surprised at how much I appreciated the contrast, because he talks about the death of his father and how he had a horrible relationship with his father and all this stuff and this very personal stuff on one microphone, and then he literally seconds later he's cracking a one-liner, and it's just it's sort of strange, and I would think that would be a bit disconnecting, or it would that shuffle and change back and forth between such hugely different genres would be disorienting, and it would cause one or the other or both to fail. But it worked surprisingly well. I would be my favorite. It's hard to say what was my favorite. I think the one-liners were funny, but it was I think that was arguably the more out of place scenario. I think the storytelling and then the kind of stand-up went hand in hand pretty well. I would be ecstatic to see just straight up stand-up for him, because I thought his stand-up was hysterical.
Yeah.
I thought it was fantastic. But yeah, he's got a heck of a story, and he's a really interesting guy. And I was surprised to learn a lot of it, and it's interesting to see. I listen to a lot of podcasts with comedians, stand-up comedians, and it's always fascinating to learn people's processes and what experiences they had in life that led them to the path of comedy. And Neal Brennan falls into that category. He's definitely an interesting guy, and because of traumatic life experiences, he actually turned him into a very funny person, and that's part of what makes him such a good stand-up is the frankly kind of shitty life he had, and the trauma and issues he has as a person actually influence and drive his comedy. It's really a funny thing. I hear a lot of comedians talk about how stand-up comedians are usually pretty messed up people. They have a lot of stand-up comedy has a very therapeutic nature to it, and that's the reason why some of them do it, is because it's like therapy to them, because they're actually kind of messed up people and they have a lot of issues, and it's a good outlet for that. So it's sort of a funny or an ironic thing to think about someone being so depressed or having such negative, terrible life translating into comedy. It's one of the whole, tragedy is comedy kind of things. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's a fascinating aspect of that genre. And I think this comedy special really, really exemplifies that notion and does it to a really kind of an extreme level that I just wasn't expecting at all. It's a really good special. I loved it. You actually watched it,
nice,
didn't you?
I did, and it's funny because I did not get into it at first, and
really?
It's specifically because I downloaded it to my phone from Netflix.
Okay.
And I basically listened to it. I listened to half of it at work because I kind of set my phone down and had my headphones in and was doing work and was listening to it like it was a podcast or audio or like a comedy special or like a comedy album. And then halfway through I stopped listening to it because I was working, and then I came home and watched the rest of it. And then when I watched the rest of it, that's when I realized like, oh, the whole three mics thing, like that's why it's so weird that he's going from super serious to stand up to one-liners and stuff. Like it felt very weird just listening to that. But watching it, like, this was really good. Like, I agree wholeheartedly. Like, it's really funny, very poignant, very, candid. I loved the candor that he had. And I do want to point out, like, one line that he had that when he was talking about his depression and everything and the medication and the way that he tried to treat it. I've said before, I'm on antidepressants, my crazy pills, my happy pills, but, and I have depression, like literally, like the way that he says is like, I'm depressed, and I don't mean that in the sense that's like, oh, I'm depressed, Kobe retired. It's like, I have clinical depression. And like, I'm the same way. I have like clinical, like diagnosed depression. And the way that he phrases it, he says, quote, depression to me has always felt like a virus that attacks your brain with negative thoughts. And like, that is like unbelievably true. Like, that's so pitch perfect.
Wow.
And his candor about, those issues, his issues with his father, and like all of that was just so just candid and real, and I loved it. Yeah. Also, really funny dude.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anything else on Three Mics?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna round us out with a quick thoughts on Free Solo. So Free Solo is a documentary that is, I referenced it in our year in review episode. Basically, it is a documentary about this climber who is a free soloist, which means that he climbs without assistance of rope or harnesses or anything. So literally, like, he is climbing without anything. So
dear God.
Yeah. Any small slip up, any small mistake, he's dead. Like, point of fact, he is dead. Like, if there is one small hiccup and everything. And like, watching the documentary, I saw it at the IMAX downtown in Indianapolis, largest screen in the state. Holy crap, this documentary was intense. And very fascinating. I wrote a review. It's on obsessiveviewer.com. Link in the show notes and everything. Basically, this documentary, from the outset, what I wanted to, like, going into it, my thought was, why would anyone do this? Like, why, what could possibly possess a human being to do this? Like, there is no reason to do that. I just couldn't fathom it at all. Especially being someone who is extremely acrophobic. I just can't fathom it.
Yeah.
And right off the bat, the documentary, like, shows, like, basically asks that question in the form of a TV interview that he did, that, Alex, Honnold, did, where he's asked that question. And he's like, his rationale is that, like, well, you can die at any time, any minute of any day, anyone could die. What's the difference if he's climbing or walking down the street or something? On the surface, I'm like, okay, I get that, but also no.
Yeah.
I'm good. Like, that doesn't make me want to go walk in traffic or climb something ridiculous.
Right.
And like, the documentary is about his attempt to climb El Capitan, a 3,200 foot wall in Yosemite National Park.
Jesus.
And it is so riveting and so fascinating, not necessarily because he's trying to do this, but because he, as a character, as a subject, is so interesting to me. He has this kind of demeanor about him where, like, his whole life, he breathes climbing. It's not like this attempt to scale El Capitan is, El Cap for short, is for like fame and glory or anything like that. It's just, he just wants to do it. He's done like 50 or he's done hundreds of free solo climbs and everything. This just happens to be the big one. Mm-hmm. He's not doing, like, the documentary isn't like saying like, oh, look at what a hero this guy is, or look how fearless he is. It's like, he's just gonna do this. And what's fascinating to me is that he is someone who lives and breathes this lifestyle. This is his drug, to the point that he lives comfortably in a van. And he's just this very peculiar yet charismatic guy. Like, there are a couple scenes where he's cooking food. He's a vegetarian. He's cooking food on his little stove in the van. And like, it's like he's like making like potatoes and like vegetables and eggs or something. And like, he's doing it all together, and he's taking a bite of it. But like, I mean, he's holding the skillet, he's taking a spatula, and he's eating on the spatula. And just like, yeah, that's pretty good. Jeez. But yeah, so he has this demeanor about him that's just so whimsically charming that I was just like I was watching, I was like, please don't die. Like, come on. But, probably one of the even more, arguably more interesting than the fact that he's trying to climb he's trying to do this ridiculous thing. By the way, no one has free soloed, El Cap at all. So like this, he would be the first person to do it. But there's another kind of extenuating circumstance that he is dating someone. And so the documentary documents his relationship with Sonny. And they it is so interesting to see how they work, because like their dynamic is very interesting, because she is someone who, loves him, and he is someone who is kind of emotionally distant and closed off because his entire life is this hobby, and like I would argue that he's maybe not socially adjusted. And so it's very interesting to see like the candidness of their relationship and how they work together and how their relationship functions. It's just fascinating documentarianism. Finally, the kind of, bread and butter of this documentary is that the footage is awe-inspiring. The camera crew captures these images that are so breathtaking. And another kind of undercurrent of it is like the filmmakers are close friends of Alex's, and like it's like there are numerous times where they're planning out how they're going to shoot this film, because the kind of underlying thing is that like just the fact that this attempt that's, again, has never been completed by a human solo, like without any rope or anything. The fact that it's being filmed is like, there's a fear that it's going to affect his concentration. It's just him being shot with it is like going to affect his ability to do it. And then also there's another element to it that it's like the cameramen, like, what if they accidentally get in his way and kill him? And it's so riveting and tense. Like, I mean, it was one of the most like sweated palms and nervous kind of energy I've had in a documentary.
Wow.
Very good documentary.
Sounds awesome.
Yep. And that's free solo. If you're in Indianapolis, it is currently playing this week. I think is the only week it's doing it, at the IMAX downtown.
Cool.
So yeah. So having said that, I think we're about done. Tiny, you need to go to bed.
Yep.
I need to put my pizza away. Next week on the podcast, very excited because I think you and I are going to do a double bonus review.
Mm-hmm.
Basically Hulu has released a documentary, about the Fire Festival, which I had read about when it was happening. A very high-end, extravagant music festival on an island that was thrown by, Ja Rule was involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up being a complete disaster. People were stranded on an island and stuff. So Hulu has this documentary, Fire Fraud, and Fire with a Y. And then Netflix, in a few days, by the time you guys are listening to this, it'll be probably posted. But Netflix has a documentary as well that they're releasing this week called Fire Festival, or Fire, the Greatest Party That Never Was. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch both, we're going to review both, and it's going to be a bonus episode. And then I'm hoping that the main episode next week will be a review of Glass. So it might be me and Kirsten or me and Tiny. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But we're going to hopefully review Glass. So having said that, Tiny, anything else?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. And see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
And now, here's a short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. To hear the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy. Yeah, when Glass comes out, do you, when you see it in the theater, say you see it with the theater,
I'm afraid for the rest
capacity
of this.
is there's a decent amount of people there.
Mm-hmm.
Would you look at it as a glass half full or glass half empty?
God damn it. You have this little smirk that you cannot hide.
I know.
When you're getting ready to make a pun. And at first I was like, okay, where's this going? And I didn't, and then the smirk just, you were trying really hard.
I know.
But I could see it.
And I was trying to think of the phrasing.
The Obsessive Viewer podcast is edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. For a full archive of our episodes, go to ObsessiveViewer.com/OV archive. You can also like our Facebook page and join the OV Facebook group at facebook.com/theobsessiveviewer. And follow us on Twitter at ObsessiveViewer and at ObsessiveTiny. And follow our recurring co-hosts at I am Mike White, that's me, at R.A. Feckus, and at Burger_Lurker. If you enjoy the show, please take a couple minutes to leave us a rating and a quick review on Apple Podcasts. This is the easiest way to support what we do, and all it costs is a little bit of your time. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can make a PayPal donation at obsessiveviewer.com/donate. Or support us on Patreon for recurring donations and access to commentary tracks and B-roll audio recorded exclusively for patrons at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Every donation goes toward paying the fees to keep the podcast running and is greatly appreciated. For official Obsessive Viewer merch, including shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more, visit our TeePublic store. You can find a link to the store in the show notes of this episode and at obsessiveviewer.com/donate. Or you can simply search for Obsessive Viewer at teepublic.com, T-E-E, public.com. For information about our annual live event showcasing short horror films from local filmmakers, check out shocktoberInIrvington.com. And for an archive of all our events, as well as news about potential future events, head over to obsessiveviewer.com/live. For more podcast content, you can find Anthology, Matt's solo podcast covering The Twilight Zone, and other classic and contemporary science fiction anthology TV shows at anthologypod.com and on Twitter at OVAnthologyPod. You can also find Tower Junkies, a podcast where Matt and Tiny share their love of all things Stephen King and his magnum opus, the Dark Tower series, at towerjunkiespod.com and at towerjunkiespod on Twitter. And finally, check out The Secular Perspective, Tiny's side project podcast, which tackles current events and life's big questions from the perspective of secular hosts Chad and Amanda at thesecularperspective.com. The theme music for The Obsessive Viewer comes courtesy of the band Loudlike from their EP Mistakes We Must Make. Additional bumper music is provided courtesy of As Good As It Gets, which can be found at facebook.com/asgoodasitgetsband. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Kitty.